Law enforcement wants us to extend the CALEA requirement to more communications like Skype, encrypted BlackBerry devices, and social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter. It's important, I believe, that we move with caution when it comes to expanding CALEA, which may also provide opportunities for hackers and foreign adversaries to gain access to these systems. I have a couple of questions. Number one, how big is the problem, Ms. Caproni, that you are trying to solve? In rough numbers, how many times in the last year did federal and state law enforcement officials seek to conduct electronic surveillance and were stymied because the communications it wanted to access were encrypted or were unavailable from the communications service that carried them? And secondly, as you know, governments around the world have recently shown a strong interest in accessing the communications of BlackBerry business users whose emails are currently encrypted with a key not known to BlackBerry's parent company or the wireless carrier or anyone other than the company employing the individual user. Several countries have threatened to ban the use and sale of BlackBerry devices unless BlackBerry's parent company provides them with intercept capabilities. The ability of American business people to communicate securely, particularly when they travel abroad, is obviously of great importance to our own economic well-being. If the emails of a U.S. businessman or woman can be monitored by the Saudi, Indian, or Indonesian governments when they travel abroad, we risk losing the intellectual property advantage that is at the very core of our economy. However, if we force BlackBerry's parent company to give U.S. law enforcement agencies intercept capabilities over these business users, it will likely be quite difficult for the company to keep saying no to those other governments. Is providing U.S. law enforcement agencies with this access worth it if it means that foreign governments will then be able to get the same intercept capabilities in their own countries?
So there's several questions in that question. Let me try to take them one at a time. First, let me start with law enforcement, or at least FBI, has not suggested that CALEA should be expanded to cover all of the Internet. In fact, that's the subject of how you would achieve the goal that we're talking about is very actively being discussed in the interagency. That might be a solution, that might not be a solution. So we're not really suggesting that. But let's turn directly to encryption. Encryption is a problem, and it's a problem that we see for certain providers. It's not the only problem, and if I don't communicate anything else today, I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a multifaceted problem, and encryption is one element of it, but it's not the entire element. There are services that are not encrypted that do not have an intercept solution. So it's not a problem of them being encrypted, it's a problem of the provider being able to isolate the communications and deliver them to us in a reasonable way so that they are usable in response to a court order.
Well, that's not to minimize, however, the encryption problem.
Absolutely not. But what I do want to say is, as we said in the written statement, that we're not looking, and we think this problem, there are individual encryption problems that have to be dealt with on an individual basis. The solution to encryption that is part of CALEA, which says if the provider is encrypting the communications, and so they have the ability to decrypt and give them in the clear, then they're obligated to do that. That basic premise that provider imposed encryption, that the provider can give us communications in the clear, they should do that. We think that's the right model. No one's suggesting that Congress should re-enter the encryption battles that were fought in the late 90s and talk about sequestered keys or escrowed keys or the like. That's not what this is all about.